I stood in that church basement in Connecticut, 300 people staring at me, while my mother's face went white. The fundraiser banner behind her read, "Help the Barrett family save their home." She just finished telling everyone how she and my father had sacrificed everything for their only daughter. How they'd been betrayed by a trusted friend. How they'd given me the best education, the best opportunities, asked for nothing in return. I let her finish. Then I pressed play on my phone. My father's voice filled the room through the speaker system. "She's smart, but she's soft. Wyoming will break that out of her." My mother's voice answered. "And if she fails? Then she wasn't worth the investment." But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back 6 months. To the day everything started. Graduation day in Boston. Late May, spring air warm, everyone around me laughing and hugging their families. Caps flying into the sky. Camera flashes. Parents crying happy tears. Mine handed me an envelope. Small, white, my name written in my mother's careful handwriting across the front. They didn't smile. Didn't take a single photo. Just stood there in their dark coats, faces blank, waiting for me to open it. Inside was a boarding pass. One-way ticket. Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Departure, 6:47 a.m. tomorrow morning. No return date. No explanation note. Nothing else. "Congratulations," my father said. "Already turning to leave. Time you learned how the real world works." I stood there in my cap and gown, that boarding pass shaking in my hands, feeling like someone had just kicked my legs out from under me. My parents had always been cold. Practical in a way that felt cruel. They'd pay for things, sure, but only if it came with conditions. Control. Reminders of what I owed them. But this? Exiling me the day I graduated? I didn't understand. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the stairs of our small Connecticut house around midnight, and that's when I heard them in the kitchen. They didn't know I was there. "She'll struggle at first," my mother said. "But she's smart. Wyoming will break that softness out of her." My father's voice came next, low and certain. "And if she fails?" A pause. Then my mother again. "Then she wasn't worth the investment." I pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from making a sound. Investment. That's what I was to them. Not a daughter. Not someone they loved. An investment that needed to prove its value. I went back upstairs before they could hear me cry. Packed my bag in silence. And the next morning at dawn, I boarded that plane. What my parents didn't know, what they never thought to ask, was that their soft, obedient daughter had been building something they couldn't see. Something that would change everything. But they wouldn't find out about that until it was too late. Wyoming was cold in a way that felt personal. Endless sky. Wind that cut through every layer. Nothing to hide behind. I rented a room above a diner on the edge of town. $70 a week. Shared bathroom down the hall. The kind of place where the heater rattled all night and you could hear every conversation through the walls. I took a job at that same diner. Serving coffee to ranchers who barely looked up from their plates. Clearing tables. Wiping down counters until my hands smelled like bleach. Every night, I'd climb those narrow stairs to my room and stare at that boarding pass I'd pinned above my bed. A reminder. Of exactly what my parents thought I was worth. But here's the part they never knew. 2 years earlier, during my sophomore year at college, while they were telling their friends I was still figuring things out, I'd started something. A finance channel. Online. Completely faceless. No name attached. No face on camera. Just a calm voice, mine, breaking down market patterns. Startup failures. Investment opportunities everyone else had forgotten about. I called it North Star Ledger. I wasn't trying to get rich. I was trying to understand money. Real money. The kind my parents always held over my head but never actually taught me about. The channel started small. 50 subscribers. Then 500. Then something shifted. An analysis I did on a failed tech acquisition went viral. Suddenly I had 20,000 people listening. Then 50,000. By my junior year, a media firm in New York reached out. They wanted to acquire the channel. The number they offered didn't feel real. I reinvested everything. A logistics startup based in Illinois that I'd researched for months. Renewable land projects in Colorado and California that everyone said were too risky. They weren't. By graduation, my accountant said the words out loud, and I had to ask her to repeat them. 7 figures. I was worth over $1 million. Quietly. Legally. Completely on my own. And my parents had no idea. Wyoming wasn't exile. It was camouflage. A place to disappear while I figured out my next move. Because standing in that diner, pouring coffee, I knew one thing for certain. My parents had made a mistake. They thought distance would break me. Instead, it gave me exactly what I needed. Space to think. And time to wait. 3 months passed before my mother finally called. Her voice on the other end of the line sounded rehearsed. Flat. You can come back, she said. Your father and I discussed it. I almost laughed. What changed? I asked. Silence. Then 2 words that told me everything. We need help. That phone call should have felt like victory. My parents, the ones who'd shipped me off without a second thought, now calling because they needed something. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt cold. What kind of help? I asked. My mother's voice tightened. We can discuss it when you're home. I'm not coming home until you tell me what's going on. Another pause. Longer this time. Then my father's voice came on the line. He must have been listening the whole time. We made an investment, he said. It didn't work out. That was all he'd give me. I told them I'd think about it and hung up. 2 days later, I got an email from someone I didn't recognize. No subject line. Just an attachment. Foreclosure notice. Their house, the one I'd grown up in, was being taken by the bank. I called my mother back. This time, she told me the truth. 6 months ago, they'd taken out a massive loan. Used the house as collateral. Every piece of equity they had. A family friend had pitched them on a real estate development in New Jersey. New construction. Luxury condos. Guaranteed returns. They'd put everything into it. The development never broke ground. Permits fell through. Investors pulled out. The whole project collapsed in weeks. And the family friend? Gone. Vanished with their money and everyone else's. Now the bank wanted the house. Foreclosure proceedings had already started. My mother's voice cracked when she said it. We need you to come home and help us figure this out. You're good with numbers. You always have been. Good with numbers. That's what I was to them now. Not their daughter coming home. A calculator they could use. I told her I'd think about it. But I didn't fly back to Connecticut. I booked a flight to New Hampshire instead. Because one of my earliest investors, a man who'd believed in North Star Ledger when it was just an idea, had sent me a message the day before. 3 words. You should know. He was waiting for me at a cafe in Portsmouth. And what he showed me changed everything. The cafe in Portsmouth was quiet. Old brick walls. Local art hanging crooked on the walls. The kind of place where people came to work on laptops and pretend they weren't eavesdropping on everyone else's conversations. Marcus was already there when I walked in. 50s. Silver hair. Wire-rimmed glasses. He'd been one of the first people to invest in North Star Ledger back when it was just me recording videos in my dorm room closet. He didn't invest much, $5,000, but he'd believed in me when no one else did. He stood when he saw me. Gave me a quick hug. "Thanks for coming," he said. We sat down. He already had coffee waiting for me. "I wasn't sure if I should reach out," he said. "But after what you told me about your parents, I thought you needed to see this." He slid a folder across the table. Thin. Manila. The kind lawyers use. I opened it. Inside were documents. Legal papers. Corporation filings. Some of them decades old. And then I saw it. A trust document. My name at the top. Established before I was even born. "What is this?" I asked. Marcus leaned forward. "Your grandparents set that up for you. Did you know about it?" I shook my head slowly, scanning the pages. The trust had been funded significantly. Not millions, but enough to change someone's life. Enough to pay for college. Start a business. Buy a house. It was supposed to transfer to me when I turned 25. My grandparents had died when I was 12. I barely remembered them. Just flashes. My grandmother's laugh. My grandfather's workshop in the basement. When they passed, Marcus continued, "Your parents became trustees. They were supposed to manage it until you were old enough. Then hand it over." I kept reading. There were withdrawals. Dozens of them. Starting years ago. "They've been using it," I said quietly. "Yes." My hands started shaking. Not from fear. From understanding. "The one-way ticket," I whispered. "Wyoming." Marcus nodded. "If you're far away, you're not asking questions. You're not checking account statements. You're not wondering why money that should be yours is disappearing." I flipped to the last page. Current balance, significantly depleted. They'd been draining it for years. Padding their lifestyle. Funding their investments. Controlling my choices by making me think I had nothing. The New Jersey real estate deal wasn't just desperation. It was their last attempt to replace what they'd stolen before I ever found out. "They never planned to give this to me," I said. Marcus's expression was grim. "No. They didn't." I closed the folder. My chest felt tight, but my mind was clear. "Thank you for showing me this." "What are you going to do?" he asked. I looked at him. "I'm going to make sure they never see it coming." I flew back to Wyoming that same night. Not because I was running. Because I needed to think. And I needed them to believe I was still far away. Still powerless. Still their soft daughter who didn't know how money worked. But the truth was, I'd already been moving pieces into place. 2 months earlier, back when my parents first stopped returning my calls, I'd felt something shift. The way my mother's voice sounded strained on our last conversation. The way my father had asked odd questions about my plans and whether I'd be staying out west permanently. It felt wrong. So I'd hired someone. A forensic accountant in Boston. Discreet. Professional. The kind of person who finds things people don't want found. I'd given her one job, trace my parents' finances. She'd called me 3 weeks later. "They're in trouble," she'd said. Deep trouble. She'd found the loan. The collateral. The development deal. All of it. And she'd found something else. The bank holding their loan was small. Regional. The kind that sometimes sold off risky debt to avoid losses. If you moved fast, she'd told me, you could buy it. So I did. Through a shell company. Clean. Legal. Untraceable to my name. I bought their loan for 70 cents on the dollar. The bank was happy to offload the risk. And just like that, I owned the debt. I owned the power to foreclose. Or the power to protect. The Connecticut house, the one they were about to lose, was safe now. Because I controlled it. They had no idea. When my mother called begging for help, I already held every card. I just hadn't decided yet how to play them. Now, sitting in my small Wyoming room with Marcus's folder on my bed, I knew exactly what came next. I picked up my phone. Dialed my lawyer. It's time, I said when she answered. Freeze the trust. File the investigation paperwork. I want everything documented. Are you sure? She asked. Completely. This will destroy them. I looked at that boarding pass still pinned to my wall. They destroyed themselves, I said. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. 2 weeks passed. I stayed in Wyoming. Went to work at the diner like nothing had changed. Poured coffee. Smiled at customers. Collected tips. But everything had changed. On a Tuesday morning, while I was refilling the cream dispensers, my phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer. Papers served. Both parents. 10 minutes ago. I set the cream down carefully. Took a slow breath. Across the country, in Connecticut, my parents were being handed legal documents. Notice of trust freeze. Investigation into misappropriation of funds. Forensic audit pending. Every withdrawal. Every transfer. Every dollar they'd taken that wasn't theirs, all of it being examined. My phone rang 5 minutes later. My father. I let it ring 4 times before answering. What have you done? His voice shook. Not with anger. With fear. I didn't answer right away. Let the silence stretch. I protected what was mine, I finally said. Sienna, listen to me. No. My voice stayed calm. Steady. You listen. You sent me away because you thought I was soft. Because you thought I'd never figure out what you'd been doing. We can explain. I don't need your explanations. The line went quiet. Then my mother's voice. She'd grabbed the phone. We're your parents. Her tone shifted. Sweeter now. Pleading. You owe us. Everything we did was for you. I almost laughed. You sent me away to learn how the world works, I said. I did. But there's something you still don't know about me. What? My father asked, back on the line. You're going to wish you'd asked before you stole from me. I hung up. And I didn't answer when they called back. 3 days later, I was on a plane to Florida. Because I'd started asking questions. The family friend who'd pitched my parents on the New Jersey development, the one who'd vanished after everything collapsed, wasn't as gone as everyone thought. It took my forensic accountant 6 hours to find him. New name. New business. Same face. He was living in Clearwater. Running a consulting firm that helped retirees invest in vacation properties. Same con. Different targets. I didn't tell my parents I'd found him. I didn't tell anyone. I just booked the flight. His office was in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service. Glass door. Cheap vinyl lettering. Coastal Investment Solutions. I walked in wearing jeans and a university sweatshirt. Pulled my hair back. Looked young. Harmless. The receptionist barely glanced up. Do you have an appointment? No, but I was hoping to talk to someone about investment opportunities. My grandmother just passed away and left me some money. I don't know what to do with it. Her expression softened. Let me see if Mr. Brennan is available. 5 minutes later, I was sitting across from him. 50s. Tan. 2 white teeth. The kind of man who made you feel like you were the smartest person in the room right before he emptied your bank account. Sorry for your loss, he said, not sounding sorry at all. I played the part. Nervous. Unsure. Asked basic questions about returns and safety and risk. He leaned back in his chair, completely comfortable. And that's when I took out my phone. Do you mind if I record this? I asked. I want to remember everything you tell me. I'm not good with numbers. He smiled. Of course. I set the phone on the desk between us. Hit record. And then I started asking different questions. About New Jersey. About developments that never broke ground. About investors who lost everything. His smile faltered. I'm not sure what you're referring to. The Barrett family, I said quietly. Connecticut. You remember them. His face went pale. Who are you? Their daughter. He stood up. You need to leave. Not yet. I stayed seated. Calm. Because here's what's interesting. That development was never real, was it? You knew from the beginning. I don't know what you've been told, but you targeted them specifically. My parents aren't the only ones. There were 4 other families. Same pitch. Same collapse. You've done this before. He moved toward the door. But I'd already gotten what I came for. Because while he was talking, while he was comfortable, he'd said enough. Enough to prove the scheme was intentional. Enough to prove my parents knew the risk. Enough to prove they'd gambled anyway. With my money. I stood up. Took my phone. You should leave town, I said. Because I'm not the only one looking for you now. I walked out. And I didn't look back. I found out about the fundraiser from a Facebook post. Someone from my parents' church had tagged them. Community rally for the Barrett family, tonight at 7 p.m., all welcome. The post had dozens of comments. Praying for you both. Can't believe someone would do this to such good people. We'll be there to support you. I stared at my phone screen for a long time. Then I booked a flight back to Connecticut. The church basement smelled like burnt coffee and old carpet. Folding tables lined the walls. Donation jars sat on each one. A banner hung behind the small stage, "Help the Barrett family save their home." I arrived 20 minutes late on purpose. Wore dark jeans. Plain jacket. Hair down. Stood in the back near the coffee station where the lighting was dim. Nobody recognized me. Why would they? I'd been gone for months. Most of these people had never met me. I was just a name my parents mentioned occasionally. The daughter who'd moved out west. There were maybe 300 people there. My parents sat in the front row. My mother wore a navy dress. My father, a suit I'd never seen before. They looked small. Tired. Sympathetic. The pastor stood at the podium telling their story. How they'd worked hard their whole lives. How they'd been betrayed by someone they trusted. How they'd invested everything trying to secure their future, and now they were losing their home. People nodded. Some wiped their eyes. Then my mother stood up to speak. She walked to the podium slowly. Took a breath. Let her voice shake just enough. Thank you all for being here, she said. I don't have the words to express what your support means. She talked about the development. The family friend who disappeared. The foreclosure notices. And then she said it. My husband and I sacrificed everything for our daughter. We gave her the best education we could afford. We supported her dreams. We asked for nothing in return. We just wanted her to have a good life. Her voice cracked. Now we're losing everything. But we don't regret it. Because she's out there building her future. And that's what parents do. We give everything so our children don't have to. The room erupted in applause. I felt my jaw tighten. She was going to use me. Make me part of the narrative. The daughter they'd sacrificed for. The reason they were noble in their suffering. I waited until the applause died down. Then I stepped forward into the light. That's an interesting story, I said loudly. Heads turned. My mother's eyes found me in the crowd. Her face went white. Sienna. Let me tell everyone what you left out. I walked down the center aisle. People moved aside. Nobody spoke. When I reached the front, I pulled out my phone. 6 months ago, my parents handed me a one-way ticket and told me to leave. They didn't ask if I had a place to stay. They didn't ask if I'd be okay. They just wanted me gone. My mother opened her mouth. That's not. Let me finish. I connected my phone to the church's speaker system. The pastor stepped aside, confused. I recorded this the night before I left. I pressed play. My father's voice filled the basement. She's smart, but she's soft. Wyoming will break that out of her. My mother's voice. And if she fails? Then she wasn't worth the investment. The room went silent. You could hear people breathing. I let the recording end. Then I looked at my parents. You want to talk about sacrifice? I said. Let's talk about the trust fund my grandparents left me. The one you were supposed to give me when I turned 25. The one you've been draining for years. My father stood up. Sienna, this isn't the place. You made it the place when you lied to 300 people about who you are. I turned to face the room. They didn't lose their money because of a bad investment. They lost it gambling with money that wasn't theirs. My money. Money my grandparents set aside before I was born. My mother's voice was desperate now. We were going to pay it back. You sent me away so I wouldn't notice it missing. She tried to step toward me. I held up my hand. You want to know the real reason I'm here? Not for revenge. Not to embarrass you. I looked at both of them. I'm here because you taught me something valuable. You taught me that some people will take everything from you and then ask for sympathy when they get caught. The room was so quiet I could hear the fluorescent lights humming. The house isn't being foreclosed, I said. I bought the loan months ago. The house is safe. My father's face showed confusion. Then understanding. Then something close to horror. But you'll never live in it again, I continued. Because I'm selling it. The money will go 3 ways. Your debt. A charity that helps kids aging out of foster care. And my choice. My mother's legs seemed to give out. She sat down hard in the folding chair. You can keep your donations, I told the room. They don't need them. What they need is honesty. I walked back up the aisle. Nobody tried to stop me. At the door, I turned one last time. You sent me away to learn how the world works. I did. And now you're learning it too. I didn't sleep that night. Sat in a hotel room 40 minutes from the church, staring at my phone while it buzzed non-stop. My parents calling. Texting. Leaving voicemails. My father's messages were short. Desperate. Please call me. We need to talk. Sienna, please. My mothers were different. Longer. Angrier. You humiliated us in front of our entire community. We're your parents. You owe us respect. This isn't over. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called my lawyer at 6 in the morning. What are my options? I asked. She didn't hesitate. She'd been preparing for this. Criminal charges are possible. Misappropriation of trust funds. Depending on the amounts and intent, we could pursue embezzlement. The evidence is solid. And if I don't want criminal charges? Civil recovery. Full restitution. Court-ordered repayment plan. You'd get every dollar back, plus interest. It would take years, but you'd be made whole. What would you do? I asked. She was quiet for a moment. That depends on what you want. Justice? Money? Peace? I didn't have an answer. 2 days later, my parents' lawyer called me. Professional. Calm. The kind of person who gets hired when you're in serious trouble. My clients would like to negotiate, he said. Negotiate what? A settlement. They're prepared to offer a formal apology and a repayment plan. 10 years. Monthly installments. Full restitution. And in exchange? You drop the investigation. No criminal charges. No further public statements. I thought about it. I'll consider it, I said. But I want to hear the apology myself. In person. Both of them. No lawyers present. He hesitated. I'm not sure that's advisable. Those are my terms. We met at a coffee shop halfway between the hotel and their house. Neutral ground. They arrived together. My father looked like he'd aged 5 years in 3 days. My mother's face was hard. Controlled. We sat at a table in the back. Nobody ordered anything. My father spoke first. We're sorry. His voice was hoarse. For all of it. The ticket. The trust. The lies. We were scared. We made terrible choices. We thought. You thought you'd never get caught, I said. He flinched. My mother leaned forward. We raised you. We fed you. We gave you a home. That has to count for something. With my grandparents' money, I said quietly. We were the ones who were there. We were the ones who. Stop. I looked at both of them. You don't get to rewrite history. You don't get to pretend the bad parts didn't happen just because you're facing consequences. My father put his head in his hands. What do you want from us? My mother asked. Her voice was cold now. The fake sweetness was gone. I want you to understand what you did. We know what we did. No. You know you got caught. That's different. Silence. I took a breath. Here's what's going to happen. You'll enter a court-ordered repayment plan. Every month for the next 10 years, you'll pay back what you took. You'll attend financial counseling. You'll perform community service. And you'll sign a public acknowledgement of what you did. My mother's face twisted. Public acknowledgement. You made this public when you held that fundraiser. Now you get to tell the truth publicly. And if we refuse? She asked. I met her eyes. Then I file criminal charges. And you can explain to a jury why you stole from your own daughter. My father looked up. His eyes were red. We never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did, I said. You just didn't think I'd be strong enough to do anything about it. I stood up. Your lawyer has the paperwork. Sign it or don't. But this is the only offer you're getting. I walked out of that coffee shop. And I finally felt like I could breathe. 6 months later. I was sitting in my new office in Jackson Hole when the envelope arrived. Not a boarding pass this time. Just a card. Plain white. My name on the front in handwriting I recognized. My mother's. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside, 2 words written in blue ink. We're sorry. No explanation. No excuses. Just that. I set it on my desk next to the framed photo of my grandparents I'd found in a box at the Connecticut house before it sold. They looked happy in the picture. Young. My grandmother's hand on my grandfather's shoulder. I wondered if they'd known. If they'd suspected what my parents might do. Or if they'd just hoped for the best. The house sold for more than expected. A young family bought it. 2 kids. A dog. They sent me a photo after they moved in, showing the kids playing in the backyard. It made me feel better about letting it go. The money was divided exactly as I'd promised. 1/3 went to paying off my parents' remaining debts. They were living in a small apartment now. Both working. My father at a hardware store. My mother doing bookkeeping for a dental office. They made their monthly payments on time. Every single one. 1/3 went to a nonprofit that helped teenagers aging out of foster care. Kids who were about to be on their own with nothing. I'd set up the donation as anonymous, but I visited the organization once. Watched them help a 17-year-old girl figure out how to apply for college scholarships. She reminded me of myself. Scared. Determined. Trying to build something from nothing. The final third I used to start something new. A scholarship fund in my grandparents' names. For students from complicated families. The kind who had to build their futures despite the people who were supposed to help them. The kind who understood what it meant to be someone's investment instead of someone's child. My office overlooked the mountains. I'd started a small venture capital firm. Nothing flashy. Just me and 2 partners helping early-stage founders who had great ideas but no connections. The kind of people who didn't get second chances usually. We focused on faceless creators. People building things quietly. People who understood that success didn't always need to be loud. North Star Ledger was still running. I'd hired someone to manage the day-to-day, but I still recorded videos sometimes. My audience had grown. They didn't know who I was. They didn't need to. They just knew the advice was real. On my 25th birthday, the trust officially transferred to my name. What was left of it, anyway? My lawyer called to congratulate me. How does it feel? She asked. Quieter than I expected, I said. Because the truth was, I didn't need that money anymore. I'd already built something bigger. Something that was entirely mine. I thought about my parents sometimes. Wondered if they understood yet. If they'd figured out that the worst part wasn't losing the money. It was losing me. Because I hadn't cut them off completely. I answered when they called on holidays. Kept the conversations short but civil. My father always sounded tired. My mother, defensive. They never asked about my business. Never asked how I was doing. I think they were afraid of the answer. Afraid to know that I'd become successful. That I'd built a life they couldn't control or take credit for. That I'd become everything they said I couldn't be, not because of them, but despite them. Last month, I got a letter from my mother's sister. My aunt. Someone I hadn't spoken to in years. She'd heard about everything. The trust. The fundraiser. All of it. She wrote that she was proud of me. That my grandparents would have been proud too. That what I did took courage. I cried when I read that. Not because I needed her approval, but because it was the first time someone from my family had said those words. And meant them. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled it. If I went too far. If I should have just forgiven them and moved on. I tell them the truth. I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret demanding accountability. And I don't regret showing them that the daughter they underestimated was stronger than they ever imagined. Because some stories aren't about revenge. They're about reclaiming what was stolen. Your power. Your future. Your right to exist without owing anyone for it. My parents wanted to teach me how the world works. They did. They taught me that some people will take everything from you and then act surprised when you refuse to give them more. They taught me that love without respect is just control with better marketing. They taught me that the people who should protect you are sometimes the ones you need protecting from. But they also taught me something they didn't intend. They taught me I was capable of surviving without them. Of building something real. Of becoming someone they never thought I could be. And that lesson? That one was worth everything. I keep that card on my desk. We're sorry. Not as a reminder of their apology. But as a reminder of mine. The day I stopped apologizing for taking up space. For wanting what was mine. For refusing to be small just to make other people comfortable. They asked once why I didn't destroy them completely. I never answered. Because the truth is, some people need to live with what they've done. That's harder than any punishment I could design. They'll spend years knowing their daughter became everything they said she couldn't be. Not because of them. But despite them. And every month when they make that payment, they'll remember. The girl they sent away isn't coming back. Because she doesn't need to. She already won.